Precision has a way of unsettling those who once mistook you for fragile. When every move becomes intentional, when every decision arrives without hesitation, when the silence between your words carries more weight than the noise in their accusations, a strange myth begins to form around your presence. People start whispering that something shifted inside you. The same individuals who once toyed with your kindness now watch your actions like they're studying a machine built for strategy. What they call inhuman is simply a version of yourself, no longer governed by emotional chaos. The precision they fear was born from being forced to survive environments that didn't care whether you broke or healed. That transformation created a rhythm too clean for the ones who fed on confusion. The more you moved with purpose, the more they questioned how someone who once struggled to breathe through heartbreak could now walk like a being shaped from discipline. Each precise step began unraveling their assumptions. They remembered the past version of you, the one who second-guessed every choice, the one who apologized for things done to them, the one who tolerated inconsistency in the name of connection. When that version disappeared, it left behind a stillness they never expected to see. This stillness carried the kind of strength that only forms after betrayal stops feeling surprising. Precision arrived when the heart stopped negotiating with red flags and started relying on observable patterns. Those watching from a distance couldn't comprehend how someone once emotionally entangled now moved like someone trained in psychological self-defense. They saw an evolution too rapid for their liking. Suddenly, every step you took looked engineered, calculated, untouchable. Rumors of detachment tend to appear when clarity replaces confusion. Many assumed something artificial had taken over your personality. They whispered that no normal person could shift their life so sharply. They didn't realize the transformation came from exhaustion. There comes a point when suffering teaches efficiency. Each heartbreak rewires the nervous system. Each manipulation sharpens intuition. Every emotional scar becomes a reference point. Precision becomes a survival mechanism. The world misunderstood your silence as coldness, when it was actually calibration. You were measuring actions, filtering intentions, removing noise. Nothing robotic about it. Just a mind finally operating without distortion. What unsettled people most was how you began moving faster in the right direction, while they remained stuck in the same loops. Success, even in small forms, exposes insecurities in others. Confidence built from truth threatens the ones who rely on deception. Your precision made them uncomfortable, because it stripped away their ability to predict or influence your reactions. They watched you walk away from drama without turning back. They watched you make choices without needing validation. They watched you pick peace over attention, purpose over pity, discipline over desire. That steadiness made them categorize you as something non-human. They couldn't label you with their usual insults anymore, so they resorted to calling you different, robotic, cold. But difference is not malfunction. Difference is growth. People who benefit from chaos always mistake boundaries for cruelty. The precision of your decisions confused them because they no longer had access to the emotional versions of you they once enjoyed manipulating. Your detachment cut off their fuel. Your calm shattered their attempts to provoke reactions. The freaks and manipulators who once thrived on your confusion now studied your composure like a creature they couldn't decode. They wondered how you read motives before words, how you saw lies before lips moved, how your intuition suddenly became flawless. They didn't know you had been training in the dark, while they assumed you were breaking. Precision became your revenge without ever trying to be. Even simple actions from you became symbolic. Not replying instantly became a statement. Choosing silence became a boundary. Walking away became a declaration. Maintaining your standards became your shield. Every decision looked engineered to those who never understood the value of inner order. They assumed a machine stood in your place because no ordinary person could maintain so much control. But stability is not robotic. It is crafted, earned, developed through pain that forced your mind to grow sharper than survival alone required. Once precision becomes part of your character, it is easy to mistake it for something superhuman. The ones closest to the old version of you fell into confusion first. They remembered your softness and mistook it for weakness. When they saw your new emotional discipline, it rattled them. They whispered that something about your presence felt upgraded, as if you downloaded a new mindset and discarded everything that once harmed you. They didn't realize this shift was simply the result of choosing yourself after years of abandoning your spirit for people who never deserved that level of love. The person who once froze under pressure now moves like someone rehearsed in every possibility. That shift feels unnatural to those who refuse to evolve. Precision also revealed how much of your past suffering came from ignoring intuition. Once intuition became the guide, everything aligned. No unnecessary conversations. No chasing what wasn't meant for you. No entertaining inconsistencies. No engaging in battles designed to drain. This new version became terrifying to those who used your empathy as leverage. The ones who once controlled the dynamic through emotional fog could no longer find entry points. They saw a version of you who operated with strategy, intention, and a frightening level of clarity. That clarity made them question their own identity far more than yours. The myth of you becoming something non-human grew each time you refused the old temptations. Every time you corrected your path rather than repeating cycles. Every time you walked away with dignity instead of forcing closure. Every time you responded with measured calm instead of emotional chaos. These choices made them whisper that you changed too fast, too clean, too sharply. What they didn't understand was that healing happens all at once, after you've tried every broken method of survival. Precision is the signature of a person who finally understands their worth. Choosing yourself reshaped everything from the inside out. Not in a glamorous way, not in a cinematic montage, but through tiny decisions that gathered force over time. There were mornings when the act of getting up felt like an argument with your own exhaustion. There were nights when silence tasted like freedom for the first time instead of loneliness. Those small choices carved a sharpness into your spirit, the kind that comes from walking away from versions of yourself that tolerated too much. Others called it coldness because they could not understand a heart that learned to protect its own pulse. But choosing yourself was never about becoming cold. It was about learning the cost of ignoring your own value. Each boundary strengthened your edges. Each moment of self-loyalty honed your focus. By the end, the softness remained, but the weakness evaporated. People felt the difference before you understood it fully. Conversations shifted because your attention no longer scattered in every direction, trying to explain or defend your feelings. The sharpness in your spirit wasn't aggressive. It was precise. It filtered the noise. You stopped running toward chaos disguised as love. You stopped accepting apologies coded in charm but empty in effort. Those who relied on your old patterns struggled to adapt. They watched you move differently, choosing calm over crisis, purpose over distraction. The thought of you finally prioritizing your own emotional survival triggered fear in hearts that once depended on your instability. Your decisions cut through the fog they once hid behind, and that clarity felt dangerous to them. There was a moment when prioritizing yourself felt uncomfortable. The guilt tried to latch onto you like a shadow that refused to detach. Saying no felt rude. Walking away felt wrong. Setting boundaries felt selfish. But with each step, your spirit grew sharper because it realized that guilt was never yours to carry. That guilt belonged to people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Once the truth settled, the sharpness became a form of freedom. Suddenly, the world didn't seem as suffocating because you no longer carried weight placed on you by those who never carried anything for you. That release created a strength that felt almost supernatural to those who once underestimated your endurance. Growth created a stillness inside you that unsettled the unstable. It wasn't silence born from fear. It was silence born from understanding. There was no more need to rush into explanation. No more urgency to fix situations that never respected your efforts. That stillness became sharp because it sliced through manipulation without confrontation. People who once thrived on your emotional reactions now faced a version of you that didn't move unless the decision aligned with your peace. They doubted the shift. They questioned whether you changed too much, too fast. They whispered that something in you felt different. What they felt was a spirit finally refusing to fold. Choosing yourself taught you the power of distance. Not the disappearing act that comes from avoidance, but the kind of distance that keeps your sanity safe. That space revealed patterns that were invisible up close. It showed you who only came around when they needed something. It showed you who spoke kindly but acted selfishly. It showed you who tried to hold you in a version of yourself that no longer fit. With every step back, your perspective sharpened. And once someone sees clearly, they stop accepting what blurs their vision. That clarity became armor. It made your edges stronger. It protected your peace without the need for conflict. The transformation wasn't loud, because the real sharpening happened in private. While others assumed you were the same, your mind was rebuilding itself piece by piece. You rerouted your habits. You restructured your values. You removed the expectations that drained your identity. This internal recalibration formed a spirit that refused to collapse under pressure. The sharpening didn't come from spite. It came from necessity. Pain taught you what loyalty never could. Disappointment taught you what love never explained. Every wrong turn forced your spirit to sharpen, so it could survive what your old self could not. That sharpness became visible in your decisions. You started choosing people who matched your energy rather than draining it. You started trusting your intuition instead of silencing it. You started acting from intention instead of impulse. Those shifts confused the ones who once controlled the rhythm of your emotions. They believed the old version would always return. They believed comfort would lure you back into old traps. But the sharpened version of yourself refused to chase peace in places where it never existed. This refusal left the manipulators powerless. The sharpened spirit also changed the way you handled loss. Instead of collapsing, you analyzed. Instead of clinging, you released. Instead of overthinking, you observed. Loss stopped feeling like a reflection of your worth and started feeling like a revelation of someone else's limits. That understanding turned heartbreak into information. It turned disappointment into direction. Eventually, the heaviness lifted because your spirit no longer broke in the same places. What once shattered you now barely scratched the surface. That resilience made others question what you became. Choosing yourself taught you that the world rewards those who stop begging for acceptance. The energy that once leaked into people who didn't deserve you began fueling your own ambitions. Dreams that once felt distant started feeling possible because you removed the voices that tried to convince you otherwise. The sharpening of your spirit wasn't about becoming ruthless. It was about becoming accurate. Accurate in how you loved. Accurate in how you trusted. Accurate in how you moved. Accuracy creates results that look supernatural to people who expect you to stay small.